welcome to Salmon's Pizzeria, your slice of Scottish football. Bit different tonight, seeing as we've just had the Rangers game. We thought we'd do a Rangers episode, and hopefully throughout the season we can do a few more, providing the other clubs can get there as well. We know Aberdeen are already there in some capacity, but if the others can as well, we can do some more special episodes. Got a few guests, some familiar and some sort of familiar, I guess we'll say. So we'll go around the grounds a little bit and introduce. We've got the founders mainly first. So we've got Alex. Alex, how are we doing?
Yeah, all right. I mean, we're into the next round, so that's probably the only positive you can take from tonight. So I'm trying to put a smile on my face.
Yeah, and Lee, again, another one. I mean, like myself and Alex, actually. I don't know if Scott's actually probably the last one out of us to come on, it feels like. But how are you getting on, Lee?
Yeah, mate, I'm not bad. I would probably say Scott's been on more podcasts more than me at this point. I know he's done a few episodes and I've kind of been missing, so I thought I would take the time to come on tonight.
Well, you picked one for it because there's plenty to discuss. And finally, joining us is the co-founder of the NARP podcast, not another Rangers podcast. Do go and follow them on all channels at NARP_72 if you can. Is Scott Kerr. Kerr, how are you doing?
No, no bad, Stuart. No long finished work, and I had to watch that. I had to pay £12 to watch that in the work. It was brutal. And solid sport kept sticking and kicking me off. I don't know if that was a good thing, right enough. But no, that was horrible to watch. And as the only Rangers fan, everybody else was talking about because we were getting beat, hoping we were going to get put out. But I was sitting watching it at my desk and not happy at all with what I was watching.
No, I think it's more than understandable. We've all just had to sit through that. Alex, I'll come to you first. It's finished. Victoria Plzen 2, Rangers 1. So Rangers are through 3-2 on aggregate, 4-2 on aggregate even after the 3-0 home leg. We bank an extra 4 million, roughly, from getting through to the next stage. But how do you sum that up? It's obviously it's going to be a slow build. We know this. Even Russell Martin himself is saying it's going to be a slow thing to get up to where we want to get to. But I mean, are we asking too much to see improvements week to week? Because for me, that was the worst so far.
I think. I mean, there's always going to be this talk about we need to get rid of the old core of the team, and they cause so many issues. But we've got new people coming in, and the likes of Ant-Man and Gassama, who have already started really strongly for Rangers, and yet they are doing things that you look at them and you think, why on earth are they doing that? And they've not been here that long, so it's not old habits die hard. That's what's been put into them in training. And so yeah, I'm really kind of struggling with little bits like that. I think Lee, you put a message in the chat saying it was about 85 minutes in, we were 2-1 down, and you said if we concede another in the next 2 minutes or so, we're going out of this. And I was trying to type out a reasonable response, being like, "Oh, I can't see them scoring 2, blah blah blah," but I couldn't send it because I was worried that it might actually happen. Because every single ball that came into our half, you were worried we were going to concede. So. Yeah, I'd expect to see a lot more improvement by now. I think Russell Martin is in the same boat and would have expected to see a lot more improvements by now, but we haven't. And so it's maybe time for him to kind of ramp up the pressure on the players to show that they can be capable of playing his style, which I'm not so sure they are.
I'm really glad you didn't send that message, Alex, because I've got to say, Alex did send another one into the chat saying Suit had a really good game, and literally 10 seconds later, he gave the ball away, and Jack Butland had to pull off a worldie of a save to keep it where it was. Lee, I mean, there's so much to cover in this game in terms of some deficiencies, but in the first half, if we just break it down a little bit, we won't go through it obviously minute by minute, but we'll go through a little bit. We didn't start confident, I don't think, on the ball. We weren't. One thing I will say we've done early on in these games is sort of get a hold of the ball and control it. We're not done a lot with it, and we have still conceded chances, but we have been controlling the ball. We didn't do any of that today. We seemed really sort of, I don't know if it was unfit, I don't know if it was lethargic. We just couldn't really get a hold of the ball and keep it. But I didn't think Victoria Plzen were really threatening. A couple of long range shots that didn't, maybe one that sort of had Butland scrambling, but it seemed the first cross or two that they won, which I can't believe no one else has worked this out yet, by the way, that we cannot win any cross, it seems, in our own box. The first one or two that they won of that, it's just like something clicked in them. And around that sort of 38, 39-minute mark, just before the goal, they just started pummeling us with crosses, and we look so susceptible. And then obviously the goal comes itself as well, which is another disaster, another defensive sort of mishap where the ball's down the line. Obviously, Yefty slips, but he's caught out. It's a good ball, but he's caught out, isn't he? Giga just completely forgets that he's marking a man, and he pulls off. It's pulled back, and it's smashed in the back of the net. Tav, by the way, not even in the shot, not even in the frame, which is astounding to me because it comes from our defensive mistake. So I don't know where Tav could possibly be to not be in that whole frame. How obviously there's a lot to worry about, I would say, but how worried are you with just this defense in general? And I think Andy's put up a stat, or I think maybe Scotland Coefficient put up a stat, sorry, on Twitter about the sheer amount of shots we've faced since Russell Martin's taken over, and the sheer amounts of shots on target, and that at the moment Butland, who's been a whipping boy for a while, is basically kept us in pretty much every game.
So on the terms of the shots, did I see it was like over 100 shots or something in our first 6 competitive games? If you add in the
Around there,
2
yeah.
games we've had in the league, it's a weird one, mate, because the first half I wasn't really as concerned watching it, but you could just always see it was coming. Like you're saying, the second that the first cross gets put in the box and we flap it, we were warned about this about Russell Martin's teams. Is that when it comes to set pieces and it comes to balls in the box, he's just not got a defence there that he's having to set up. And that's more of looking at the longer term picture for me. That's the biggest concern I've got moving forward with him, because we're a league of long balls. Like every team, like we were all sitting there before the game against Dundee the weekend, and we were thinking they're going to just punt that up to Simon Murray, and he's going to get in the box, and like we're going to concede, and it's just going to be like a pattern through the season that I think we're going to see. And I think one of you boys were talking about it before we came on the podcast. He's too stubborn a manager to change it. Like he's set on his style and he's not going to change the way that he does, and it's just going to be suicide football at the back. And players that are too lackadaisical to play this style in Scottish football, that I think is going to actually make us successful. We're going to get caught out time and time again with these balls, and a more competent team at finishing would have put 5 past us tonight. Same in the last round against Panathinaikos, they probably should have scored 4 or 5. We are going to take a battering off of someone at some point, and I don't even necessarily see it being Celtic. Like I could see us going to Easter Road and Easter Road clicking one day and then putting 4 or 5 past us, just with how slow and how kind of lackadaisical we are at the back. I really don't know what to think yet.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think Lee's hit nail on the head today, because even after they got that goal, we looked so ropey, which is, I guess, to be expected. It's a very, in some way of sticking up for us, it's a very difficult game for us to approach because it's 3-0 up. It's almost job done, or it should be job done. So how do you approach that? Russell Martin is a manager that I thought we'd still go and attack quite often in that game, and almost try and get the goal early, kill it. That's how I thought we'd approach it. But I can understand maybe having reservations about that, and just trying to get to half time with it level, and then it's so much harder for them to come out. You take the wind out of their sails, so to speak. They get that goal. It looked like we might concede another one before half time, and we were just sort of all over the place, and we do get the equaliser eventually, but it sort of comes out of nothing. Like it was such against run of play, a bit like Panathinaikos. In all honesty, it was a bit of brilliance for Kasama. And again, this one, funnily enough, comes from us being direct for once. Dio makes that run. Suter pings the ball. It obviously goes over. I was screaming at Dio to let this go for a corner, by the way. And he keeps it in, pulls it back, and Danilo obviously has the strike, and Cameron is really well placed to sort of just get a foot on it and put it in the back of the net. But as much as we've got issues at the back, we're just creating next to nothing up top, aren't we?
The players look lost, in my opinion. The full team looks lost. I know Butland came out and said the other day they're happy with Martin, with his system. I don't think they are, to be honest with you. I think they're not buying into it. I think they don't want to play this way. I think, like Alex said, some of them can't play this way. And he's not really getting any excuses because he's signed 10 players. If that boy comes in, that's $20 million. I mean, it's like we know people are saying time and you need to get rid of the core for last season, but there's going to be not many of them there, and they're still struggling with this playing system. And I think he's got to be more adaptable. Hanging up it there, I think he's got to be more adaptable with a system in Scotland as well as Europe. Like, and I was critical, come on, Ferguson, Beale, etc., but they all could see different things, whereas Martin to me is too stubborn, and it's you can see it's the same. It's the stuff that happened at Southampton is exactly what's going to happen here. And he's just type of guy who I don't know how he got the job in the first place. He must have had a very good interview because he never had anything at all in his CV to get the job for me. He never. I know Gerrard and Ancelotti, you can say, well, they've not got a lot either, but I don't know how Martin got it, but he's got it now. But I just feel the team are lost. I think he threw the players on the bus against Middlesbrough slightly. He done it against Motherwell. Then last week, he was happy with a point against Dundee, whereas they were lucky to get a point. I don't think he can throw the players again. I don't think he can give him any abuse because I think he does it again. It's like a school teacher. You eventually turn off when somebody's talking the same nonsense constantly. You just turn off. So I don't know what he's going to do, Stuart. I don't know if he's going to have to change up a wee bit, be more mobile. I think you can see players, especially Tav and Raskin. I thought, and they weren't great performances, but when they had the ball, it's like they want to go forward, and then they think, nope, I better turn back, and everything's back the way. Tav likes that ball down the side. Man, with two wingers we've got, yeah, we're playing a lot of passes backwards and sideways, and it's like you got two wingers, use them. We've not had two wingers for years, and we thought last week right, we got two wingers that can do something great, and we're not using them to their advantage. So I don't know. We're going to go. I'm actually confused with him, and tonight was horrible. It was a horrible game of football. I thought Dundee was really bad. Luckily, I wasn't there, but I actually watched it when I came in, and I thought this is bad. But tonight was worse, and I actually agree with Lee. I think somebody will give us a down. I don't think it will be a good side. I think it has to be somebody half decent who can finish.
See how on your point, Kerr, you're talking about obviously people kind of arguing back against Martin with the unknown and like Gerrard and stuff. But that's the biggest point for me is they were unknown. Martin came into this league with a clear style that people have known since MK Dons, Swansea and Southampton. And it's a style that everybody agreed was never going to work in the Scottish League. Like even he comes out and he's saying stuff like, what was it? He came out and was like, oh, we weren't expecting Dundee to play that way. He told us like at the start of the season that he watched a ton of our games last year before he came in. He said when I knew I was getting the job, I watched a lot of your games. So he'll have seen even from the start that we're a team that are heavily dominant on the ball. It's just the league we play in. We're technically meant to have the better players. We've got the bigger budget. We will more or less control most games possession wise. So I don't understand why the board then have seen us fail time and time again playing that sort of style and then thought, you know what, we'll just double down on that. We'll just play all possession and we won't try and attack. I don't understand why Martin was the candidate that came out of this.
I just want to also jump on something you said,
Go.
Kerr, about his comments post Motherwell and obviously post Middlesbrough as well. But when he was talking post Motherwell, I kind of bought into what he was saying. I was quite going, yeah, okay, this is he's saying what we wanted to hear. Realistically, that is what he was doing. But as much as you're saying about the players getting bored of it and eventually not even listening to it, saying if they're just berating them every single week, the fans will get bored of it much quicker than that. And that's when he said it the first time, I thought, okay, we're going to see immediate change, and it almost felt like that with the Panathinaikos result. Although it was 3-0, it could have been 3-all, it could have been 6-0. It was just one of those kind of basketball games. But then literally straight into Dundee, horrific performance again. And so you kind of expect him to come out with that same mentality. And as Lee said, it completely changed. And also almost kind of then went, rather than berating the players, he kind of talked down the fans. He went, the fans aren't giving us enough support. There's a tension in the players. But there is this expectation at Ibrox that you win every single league game. And that expectation belongs there because of who Rangers are. So I don't know where he goes with the comments, and eventually he will run out of space if he keeps doing it. So I don't know how if he's going to go down that route of berating players like that, and then you don't see the improvement, because we saw a couple of changes when after he said that, and everyone starts pointing the finger a little bit at who he was talking about. But if he's going to do that, then you need to see immediate change in performances. You need to see the players kind of responding to that, and we have not seen that at all.
We haven't. And just staying with you, Alex. I mean, the last sort of point we'll touch on from the game is the winner for Plzen, which at the time causes us a lot of pressure because it's nowhere near game over. But again, it's another cross, and I don't know how many goals we've conceded under Martin from non-set pieces or goals that haven't come direct from a cross, but it feels to me like it's been every one almost. But this cross is the worst of the lot for me. I mean, to be fair, most of their balls into the box were decent balls. They had a lot of whip on them. Someone comes and beats someone in the air, there's nothing you can do about it. It happens. This ball was whipped over to the 6-yard line, and the boy is standing there with 5 yards of space, completely He doesn't even jump. He literally just stands still and glances the ball in the back of it. And it's not like the one that drops over your head and you just glance it because you run onto it. His feet are planted. He's standing still, and he's got all the time in the world to sort of. I mean, Button's really got no chance, I don't think. And he just sort of glances that one in. Do you see a world where, even with the right players, Russell Martin can fix these clear deficiencies at the back? Because we've always struggled with, we've got a very similar defence bar Giga that we've had for a long time now, but we've always sort of struggled with the crosses into the box, even when Goldson was here. So is it a club issue that we for some reason can't defend crosses, or is it like Lee said, where we've been warned before that Martin's teams do struggle with set pieces, they do struggle with long balls into the box, and that for some reason do we not work on it in training? Like what? How do you fix this?
I don't know. To go just on what you said about what we'd been told about Martin's team, the kind of overall feedback was in Europe we were going to struggle, and in the league we would dominate teams. And it's not to say that's the polar opposite, because we have still struggled in Europe, but we've not dominated anybody that we've come up against. And it's not exactly been, a Hibs, a Hearts, an Aberdeen, a Celtic, or the likes. Motherwell away, okay, teething issues on the first day, it happens. Then Dundee at home, you need that reaction. We don't get it. And again, as you say, it's a set piece goal or a goal that comes from a wide area, and we seem to concede them far too often. The goal tonight it's so stupid because it's not the first cross that goes into the box. They've been doing it repetitively, and we've not learned from the first one to go, right, okay, just follow our man, just mark our man, just stay with our man so that there's not a free man, because they're going to keep loading the box. And every single time a ball came in, there was a free man. And eventually it leads to something. It leads to something for Plzen. They get the second goal. They kind of get a way back into it. And it wasn't even the last cross to go into our box. And it wasn't the last time that we looked like we might concede from a cross going into our box. Can Martin fix it? It's hard to tell, because we can go off, what he's had before, and the answer is probably no. And so that's what we've kind of got to lean towards. But in terms of here, it is still early days. He's not kind of shown any promise, but it is still early days, and it looks like the board are going to back him. So you kind of just have to have your fingers and toes crossed and hope that he can fix it.
Yeah, and Lee, just sort of coming to you there, because I don't want to turn into a bashing session, because it sounds so bad after 6 games. It's so early on, right? And he's not going to lose his job at this point anyway. So it is early on. I have actually said in the chat a lot of times, I'll moan, but I'm someone that is I'm fully behind it, right? When it works, and it's only worked in very small patches so far, it looks class. When it actually comes off and the passes link up well, there was a move today where it looked really, really good, and I think it ended with sort of Dio winning a corner in the first half. It can look really good. So is it a case of? It's a twofold question, really. Is it a case of he needs more players that can play this style, because quite clearly, and as good as Butland was today, by the way, and I'm a big Butland fan, I don't think long-term Butland is a keeper that can be in this style, because he can't. His distribution's quite poor. Tav cannot play this style because A, his legs are gone to get around the pitch, but B, Tav can't complete 5-yard passes, by the way. I've said this for a long time. He is the worst passer of a ball I think I've come across, which is outrageous for someone that has the technique that he possesses. I can't get my head around it. So Tav can't play it. Obviously, Butland can't play it. Yefty can't play it. Yefty, I think, has got a lot of potential, but he's not someone that can. He's not got a lot of technique on the ball. He can't play it. I don't think Suter can play it. Dessers definitely can't play it. when you've got a lot of these guys, into a degree, Diamonde's brilliant when he's got the ball, but receiving the ball, I think he's really, really poor. When you've got 5-6 players that are potentially on the pitch and they can't play your style, I mean, I guess the first question is, do you genuinely believe this style is going to work once Martin gets more players in? And B, if he doesn't get more players in, can he adapt? Because so far, I get that you're trying to impart a style on a team, and that does take time. And sometimes you can bring players up to a level that they weren't at before. But there's clearly too many players that can't do this at the moment. And maybe he needs to tweak just a little bit. It's not fully, but he needs to find little tweaks because, like you said, if we don't, we're gonna take a hiding off someone, and probably not someone that's, no disrespect, but not someone that should be giving Rangers a hiding.
I don't even think I could give you an answer on it, mate, because right now the kind of encompassing idea I have of it is it's just a style that won't work in a league. Like you said, we were told before, and this is a style that would have us dominate a league, but possession in the league, like I said, has never been the thing. If it's coming down to players signed, again, I don't know what we're going for sometimes in it, because like Rothwell looks a tidy player, but then a lot of the time I think he's also unnecessary for that kind of role, because he's the one that's kind of like taking it on the half turn, but he's just distributing it back to the defenders, because there's no point in having a player who can take it on the half turn that you're brought in to do this moving forward, but then your style is just passing it about the back anyway until you find an extra man. We're never going to have an extra man in the Scottish League. We're always going to have a team that are just sat back waiting for us on the counter. And even going back to just like the kind of strategy and kind of transfers as well, it's coming across to me a little bit scattergun in a way. We were linked to Connor Cody. Like, I had a lot of people who were saying that, oh, this defence needs a leader, there's someone that will calm it down. And maybe that's right. But then we move on from Connor Cody to another untried 20-year-old. And this is supposed to be the left centre back that we're moving on to. So I don't know if it's going to come down to just having the players in, because I still think all those players you listed off are still going to be here at the end of the window, and even if half of them can't play that style, it'll get to a point where you've not got the option other than to play those players, because we're not going to move any of them on. We might see movement for a striker now based on the fact I think Dessers is dead, so that would maybe be a good sign. But I'm so undecided on it, because you want to give him a chance and you want to just say it's teething problems, but the teething problems have been massive so far. I don't think I've seen a Rangers manager in recent memory that's started so shaky. And that's not even just down to maybe dropping points and you see what they're trying to do. It's everything. It's the losing the points. It's the manner they're losing the points, and it's the style of play we're playing. So it's just that I need to try and give him time, but I know obviously I'm an impatient at the best of times. So
yeah, and Kerr, I mean, it's the striker. I mean, listen, we've got far too many players. We know this. I guess the one positive so far this season would be that the board do seem to be backing up everything they've put in terms of they are going to invest in the team, because they have done, and it would be very easy for them not to do that based on we've got to get rid of players, because we've got like 35-40 man team at the moment, and it's clearly too much, but that's not hampering Martin's transfer window. It doesn't seem to be that much. The board have put their hands in their pockets and gone out and because people, you could bring up a share issue, but at the end of the day, we're still paying the wages of every single player at the club every single week. So that has to happen. You imagine there's going to be some movement. There's a lot of talk around Igaman leaving. If Dessers is crocked now, because I believe they said earlier that Martin's post-match press conference just now just said that Dessers was a nasty one. It didn't look good, which, by the way, comes from him trying to feign an injury from a handout from the defender, and when he goes to collapse to the floor to dive, he buckles his knee. So that's completely, and that is the most Dessers thing that we're ever going to see, bar missing an open goal. It's if Igaman is the guy that's going to come in and sorry, not come in, but go out and make the club some money, regardless how many players here, they're going to need a striker, a starting striker, because I think Danilo is. I don't mind Danilo, but I think he needs to be in a 2, and clearly we're not going to play a 2 up top. He's not a lone striker. He doesn't. He links to play okay around the box, but again, we're just not spending enough time in that area of the pitch to make him sort of valuable.
I was just going to say, and no one shoots from the edge of the box as well.
Yeah,
So
and exactly. It's that old they're always trying to walk it in. That's what it felt like for us. Is we're not creating chances, but when we're getting a opportunity to create a chance, we're just pass until eventually it's either back or we lost the ball. So for UK, I mean, in Martin going forward, which is obviously it's going to be, what do you think are the key areas, 2 or 3 key areas that we need to change to make this style work or give this style a chance?
He needs better players, mobility wise. He needs players with legs. I don't think we've got enough of that. I'm not a fan of Diamond. Never have been. I always think he flatters to deceive most of the time. I know he's got a lot of fans and if Rangers support, but I just think he plays poor most of the time and he plays good every so often. It's usually maybe against Celtic or in Europe, but apart from that, in the league he hides. Dessers always hides for me. He's just pointless. But I think he needs a left back sharpish. I think we need a left back. I don't think Aarons can play there. I think he looked very uncomfortable at left back, even more uncomfortable at right back. But no, he looked quite uncomfortable at left back. And when you've got a left back there, it gives you better balance. But I just think it comes down to the way we're playing. Stuart, I think there's decent players on that side. I think when Gerrard came in, you seen, but wasn't he great when he came in, if you remember? But you seen what he was trying to do. I mean, John Flanagan was at full back at one point, do you know what I mean? But you see when he came in, what he was trying to do, and we were getting beat, we were winning. But you see a kind of progress where you think this can get better under him. Even with Beale at the start and Clement, but I don't see us under Martin. I don't see he's trying to implement a style. He said it's. I mean, you might say it doesn't work in Scotland. It probably won't, but Celtic do similar, but no maybe as many passes. But they pass the ball about, Carter skills, but they usually get it forward quicker because they've got Maeda and whoever else, and they've got a striker that can bang in the net as well. Well, Ida can't, but Maeda can. But they've got better midfielders as well. I think as a whole, we need a new system, and I think Clement to a point had it, and then for some reason changed. He had it at one point and changed his system and changed the way he wanted to do things. Ferguson done okay, but the only thing with Barry Ferguson to the rest of him, he could change during a game. I don't feel Martin changes during a game. I think he just brings on like for like, and he brings on his best mate Dill at times. Who I'm not against Kieran Dill. I just don't think he's good enough for Rangers, but he's not the only one. So I'm not going to single him out. He's not the only one. I just think people say time, and that is great, but Motherwell brought in a new manager, and I know they've only got the same amount of points as us, but they look more settled in his system than we do. Do you know what I mean? They've not get the same budget as us. They're not paying the same wages. Not get the same players at level. They had. I bet you if Motherwell manager, our players would play a lot better. I just think sometimes a manager doesn't fit this club. And I know Martin's not going to leave. I know the board are backing him and they're giving him money to spend. But I just feel he's not the right fit for Rangers. And I know that's quite sad considering he's just in the door and we've only won one in 15 titles. But I just feel we needed somebody else. We needed somebody with a personality like Gerrard. I'm not saying Gerrard was the answer bringing him back, but we needed somebody who came in who gained the respect quite quickly, but also was willing to be adaptive and to be adaptable to the players and say, right, maybe this isn't what we'll try this. But Martin just seems shoehorned in. He said it on Sky after getting sacked with Southampton. He's not going to change it no matter what criticism he gets because that's the way he wants to play, and that's fine. But he's going to end up with a sack more often than then because it doesn't work in certain areas. Didn't work at Southampton when they get promoted. Struggled at Swansea with it, and MK Dons he was good, but that's a level you can get away with at times because you don't need to win every single game in a one horse. This is basically a one horse league in Scotland because we've not been challenging for years. And I just feel, I don't know, I'm just angry about the whole situation because we now get money to spend. We're buying players like we've not bought for years or seasons. And I'm looking to think, we're bringing in wingers, we're bringing in other guys, and this is going to be exciting. But then you look at the style of the football and you're thinking, this is horrendous. We were lucky to finish second if this doesn't improve. And I know we're only 2 games in. But it's what fans do. We're all fickle. We could play great against Sunderland and Celtic, and we could be this is great. It's clicking, but then you lose again. You go back in a anger, and you start to get depressed again. It's just the way fans are. But for me at this moment in time, I don't see it working, and hopefully it does. And I hope people come back and say to me you were wrong because I'll be happy with that. But I just don't see nothing clicking. Stuart, I'm actually watching Rangers and getting confused with what they're trying to do. Like I said earlier, they make football look so difficult. I mean, Raskin last season was playing a position with Ferguson, was further forward. He was running with the ball, he was getting involved, he was running back into the box. Tonight he get the ball and he looked up to go forward and he went, nope, I better go back. And he turned back to Suter. And as you said about John Suter, you've always said he's a siege defender, nothing else. He can't be the main passer of the team. He gives the ball away far too much.
Do you know, the one thing I would say with that as well is I don't think it's a knee-jerk reaction from us in regards to Martin, because this is something that most Rangers fans were against when his name came into the conversation. Like you had Ancelotti and stuff like that, and then Russell Martin's name was kind of popping up from time to time, and everyone was unanimous for the most part that he just wasn't the manager that we should be taking on. And also, I think one of the biggest concerns for me is I would argue we do know what his team are trying to do, but it's not the right thing for our league. Like we've known exactly what kind of style he's going to bring up here, and it's passing it about the back, trying to wait for that extra man to come up. But as I said before, that extra man doesn't come up in Scotland. It might come up occasionally in Europe. The Plzen game at home, it was good. It was a good performance. I'm not going to shy away from it being a good performance, but then they'll learn from that for the second leg, and we're back to status, so back to tight weight, because they've learned already. Their managers adapted to us in one game, right? Okay, this is how they're going to play. We try and play that over there. Fair enough, it's harder away from home, but then we're on the back foot again. We can't string two balls together, mate. I just don't see why he can't see his career as a manager so far and try and adapt. Like you're saying, Barry Ferguson came in and he could show that he could adapt during the game. If you're not as good a manager at adapting as a pundit in a league, then like it kind of screams that your kind of managerial credentials to me. So
just to sort of, I've got a couple of devil's advocates to play, so I'll bring the first one to you, Alex, after I smash everything over on the desk. The first one being, if we're talking about giving time to a manager, when Ange Postecoglou joined Celtic, their first 7 league games, they'd won 3, drawn 1, lost 3. We were all over Twitter. Well, I wasn't personally because I'm a pessimist, but a lot of people were all over Twitter, giving it the big end that, he'd be sacked by Christmas. If they've brought this Australian in that can't play European football and the style's never going to work. And then obviously the rest is history. To be fair, we did blow that ourselves a bit as well. We were a big helping hand in that. I don't think Celtic are great shakes right now. I do think they're going to sign some players. Whether they'll be the right players, we don't know. But they've definitely regressed. So if we can get this going, and we know more players are going to come in, Martin is not speaking singular. He says there'll be more signings. And I'm not going to go on to the next point because it's sort of my second point I want to bring to Lee. But is it a case of, sometimes it's just a real teething issue, and give it a month or two. And I'm not saying it's a month or two that we're going to enjoy, and it's and we're probably not going to win the league this season, which is, I think, none of us would have expected it before the takeover, and probably after the takeover that we were just going to suddenly click and win the league. But is it a case of it's way too early to sort of jump the gun on Martin, and because for me he does at least say the right things, and I have been not like Bill from day one, Gio from day one, Clement at first was okay, but after a while I couldn't listen to him talk anymore. Whereas Russell Martin, the one side of him I do think he has is that I am taking in what he's saying. I'm thinking, well, he's addressing the same issues that I saw on the pitch. I'm not seeing him fix them, but he's addressing them, and that's a big one as well. So it's like, is it a case of that? It might just be that it's going to need time. It's a complete new system. It's a complete new style, and maybe it doesn't look like it can work in Scotland now, but maybe it will click and it will work.
Yeah, he talks about a culture change a lot, doesn't he? He says it's not just the playing style, it's everything that is changing, and everyone needs to buy into that culture change. But just to play devil's advocate on the devil's advocate, Celtic weren't great in terms of results, but when they took teams like Dundee at home, they battered them 5 or 6-0, and convincingly under Ange Postecoglou, that happened quickly. The problem with Ange's system was, to begin with, that they worked out of the back, and they worked from back to front so quickly, and then pressed with such a high line that teams like Hearts on the opening day of the season would catch them out and just be able to kind of do that. And until the repetition came in I know that's what we're talking about for us, but until that repetition came in and Celtic got better, they kept getting caught out. Eventually that stopped. But for us, our problem is that we're still too slow. It's not we're not winning games 4-3 or losing games 4-3. We've scored bar the 3-0 and 2-0 at home. We've scored one in every game. It's one away to Motherwell, then one at home to Dundee. It's not like we've gone, oh wow, I can't believe we've only scored one there. We really should have scored 4 or 5. It's going, thank God we scored one, because it could have been 0. And yeah, it's a strange one. It's a really strange one in terms of like you say. Just to go on what Kerr said, that football fans are fickle, and we are, but we can also only go on what we've seen so far. And if there was glimmers of hope and stuff to kind of hold on to and go, well, maybe there is a little bit of repetition getting through, maybe we are looking a little bit better in certain areas, then there would be something to support. But there isn't. It is that if this style continues the way it is, no matter how much the players develop it into them, we're not going to create more chances. It's going to be the same output. And then we're basically relying on 1-0 wins. And with this defence, we can't do that. Never mind if we get any injuries, which we're pretty good for doing. So, I don't know. Maybe that is what it is. It needs time. He's going to get the time, whether we want him to get the time or not. He is going to get it, or we wouldn't be spending this much under a new regime. But he's not going to get the same time from the fans that he's going to get from the board, and that's really what decides your fate at Rangers. And that is where we are a fickle bunch, because we're getting into the first home game of the season and people are booing subs, albeit Kieran Dowell, and I booed him at home. But it's just the way it is. It's not something that can last forever, and it's something that falls apart really, really quickly.
Yeah, and Lee, just on the sort of second, then slight devil's advocate, I guess. We're in talks, albeit pretty much done, to bring this Mendy in from Real Betis, albeit that he's only really played sort of for their B team, and a couple of games for them and a couple of games for Paris before that. He's going to come in, whether I assume he's going to come in as a guy that can play this style and play on the left hand side of defence. So that would be a big issue sorted. But one of the biggest parts of any sort of possession-based football is your midfield and how they hold the ball and how they use the ball and how they create the chances. Asgard has not kicked the ball for us yet, so that's going to be huge. Getting Asgard back, and apparently he's going to be somewhat available for Alloa, we hope. With Asgard coming back, Mike Moore getting his clearance, Mendy possibly coming in, all of a sudden, that's 3 more players that are going to change the dynamic of the team. Then we're looking at, can we get a left back? Can we get a striker? All of a sudden, if we do fill 4 or 5 positions, can that make the big change? Because you would hope that with someone like Asgard, because I actually thought Barami would come into Martin's plans, if I'm honest, because I know a lot of people doubt Barami based on previous performances, which is absolutely fine. And Martin is still, he wanted people to stick up for Dow because he played out of position, but Barami comes and plays left-hand side every single time we use him, and we know he prefers that sort of number 10 role. But he is someone that can take the ball in and use it and create chances. Obviously, Asgard is going to be that guy for us, or we hope he's going to be that guy for us. So maybe when we complete this midfield and we find a way of working it, hopefully, either Dio figures it out, or it's going to be a Rothwell, Raskin, Asgard trio, or Cameron in there, whatever it's going to be. Once we start filling more pieces of the puzzle in, do you think that's going to help us in terms of, all of a sudden then we're going to unlock, then we're going to create chances, because the players are going to then get to know each other anyway. That's going to happen anyway in time. They don't know what each other do a lot. They know to a degree because they're professional footballers, but you do learn and grow as a team. That happens on any team when you're brand new and you bring a lot of players in. They have to gel. It's a big thing. But do you think that just filling some of these areas in is gonna like vastly improve Rangers? Or are you sort of fully in the boat now that no matter what Martin does or what players he brings in, the style is just not going to work in Scotland?
Right, I'll try and be unbiased with that, because I know that I'm kind of just going for Martin's throat. It is largely just to kind of do with emotion from tonight as well, and I understand that. I think it has to. I'm still in the mindset where we should be getting into most games in this league where you're only needing the one defensive midfielder. So I don't think there is ever going to be a need for a game other than against Celtic probably, where you need a Rothwell and a Raskin in the same team. So whether that's Asgard coming into the midfield alongside a Cameron, I think that would be your best bet to see Click moving forward, because we are talking about obviously the defensive frailties, but at the same time, mate, we are toothless up front, and that's bringing in two direct winners who we've wanted for a long time. It feels like the way that we play, even though Antman and Gasman, especially at home at Plzen, were really good and got obviously the goals and the assists, but we're not even utilising the wingers as much as we should be. And it just comes again from you needing that kind of extra man in the middle or trying to look for that extra man to break forward. Boils back down to you're not going to get that space in the league. So I do think we need more in. I do think I'd like to see actually a couple more midfielders come in. To an extent, it's not that we're neglecting the position, but we would have probably came out of last season saying that our midfield was the strongest part of your team. If you had Raskin and you had Diamandi in there, I think two players were kind of two of maybe three or four you would have had most Rangers fans saying you keep them, strip the rest of the team. But now I'm kind of swaying the other way, and that Raskin looks like, I mean, Martin's kind of alluded to it himself that he thinks he's maybe had a wee word in the ear from a couple of agents and a couple of teams who have tapped him up. So, and I've heard talk that he probably does want to go, and Diamandi's form has fell off a cliff. I know it's only the first couple of games of the season, but I don't know what's happened to Diamandi. And I was on the other side of the fence from Kerr with that. I really like Diamandi. I thought he was one of these players who would benefit from this team. If we're going to get better, I would say we still maybe need another 2-3 midfielders to get brought in, and it's midfielders in the mould of Asgard. I'd like to see maybe dip into Europe and try and pick up a couple of even tonight, like some of the midfielders for Plzen, you're always going to have those cheap talents in Europe that are going to benefit in the league, and I feel that would push us forward. So moving forward, I do think it's for us to kind of benefit from Martin's system. It's going to need more than anything midfielders and a striker that can probably hold up play better than Dessers and who we've got in the squad.
Yep. Yeah, fair points. Kerr, so obviously we know who our next opponents are in the Champions League. The final task is Club Brugge, which, I mean, out of them and it's looking like Benfica on the other side of things. I think Club Brugge, as good as they looked last season in the Champions League, I think just the name Benfica scares me more than Club Brugge does. They've overcome Salzburg. They won 1-0 at home. They won 1-0 away, sorry. They come back home tonight. They were 2-0 down to Salzburg. They ended up winning 3-2 to go through. They've had a bit of a mixed start as well. They edged Genk late on in the league. They've already lost to Mechelen in the league, and then they've beat a 10-men Cercle Bruges, who got a red card early. So they've not been great shakes so far. We did play them in a preseason friendly. Can't take anything from that really, but we got to see them. We got to see their sort of style. Got to say, I was more impressed with how Middlesbrough set up and their press than Club Brugge's. But again, it's a friendly, so there's nothing really to be taken from there. Do you see any way that Rangers qualify for the Champions League this season against Club Brugge? Do you think there's we can maybe drag them down and beat them at our level, or do you think it's going to be a Europa League run again?
I think there's a real chance, Stuart. I think when you're doing it the last two games to get through, you've got to think to yourself, it's a 50-50 chance, no matter how bad or how good you're playing, because obviously we played Bruges in a friendly. I was here. I thought Bruges were technically very good, but it was one of the friendly games we can't really judge. So I think we've got every chance if we can step up our performance. But will that happen? Time will tell. But you were talking earlier about, I think if you played a man up front, if you got him fit and fine, I think he could be good for us. But I don't know if he's Martin's type of player, because he plays off the cuff. Martin wants somebody who follows instructions, and Igam hinders to do that, as we've seen last season. He can be a maverick 1 minute and next minute he's not interested, but I think he's the best we've got at holding the ball. I think he's physical and he's robust and he could do that. I don't think Danilo or Dessers can do it. Honestly, I don't. I think we're asking and Rothwell, I think you have to play two of them together. I think you have to do them. Both of them could sit, but one Askin showed last season he's box to box, and Barry Ferguson showed him how to do it, and he was involved in a lot of goals, and he scored a few goals. I think Asgard is a big mist. I've seen Thello quite a lot through the years, and the boy is a good footballer, but he is very slight. When he was growing up, when he was at Wigan, he was at Liverpool, but then he went to Wigan because he had problems with his bones or something when he was younger. So he was always very slight and at least she's like when he said, I only know this for a Wigan fan because they told me, because one of my mates is a Wigan season ticket holder. He told me this and he said, so we get a chance of getting him, but we had to watch how we played him because he was prone to picking up the odd injury, which he never really done with them. But because he had slightly something wrong, he was growing up his bones or something. I don't know exactly what it was. It might be fine now, but I think he has a big miss because I think he can be a link between middle and front. But I think you do need a front man. If you're not going to sign anybody, use Igamani. But if you're going to sign somebody, it has to be now. But we need somebody who can run up front, somebody with mobility, somebody with like somebody physical, and somebody who obviously can hold the ball up and bring the wingers into play. I mean, see if you just, I mean, you spoke earlier about Ange, and Ange, yeah, had teething problems, but he was still quite, he would pass it about, but Celtic were quite direct and physical. We're not, we're the opposite, we're slow and tedious. And I think when you play without tempo against anybody, you're going to struggle. I think we have the players to up it, but I don't know if we will under Martin. But the signs are there with the players we've got that we can. If we keep bringing more players in, you just never know. I do agree with Lee as well, as in, I know we've been looking at Europe, England quite a lot. That's because I feel Will Purdy and Martin all came from down there, so there's a lot of players they've seen through their time being down there. But in like places like Plzen and other places like that, you've got the Czech Republic, Denmark, you've got guys here who could do a job here easily, and it wouldn't cost anywhere as much, plus the wages wouldn't be anywhere as much either. I think when you buy somebody from English League One Championship, you're paying more money just to bring them up to Rangers. We've seen that, and then we kind of get them off our boots like Davis and Dowell, etc. They're earning mega bucks, and they're not really any good to us. So it'll be a learning curve for them, and I know we all speak about time, but I would just like to see us doing something positive for a change because everything's been negative, and I hate being negative about Rangers because I was actually quite looking forward to this season with the takeover with a new manager. And even though I wasn't on board, I thought we'll give him a chance. But after these certain amount of games, it's all doom and gloom, and it's not even end August, and I think I don't want it to be like this. We're spending money. We've got new owners, which I've not had for years, which I've been crying for. I want it to be more positive and thinking I didn't expect us to win the league anyway. I thought even a challenge this season and maybe a cup, but a serious challenge, not like finishing by Halloween and you're out of the league. A serious challenge into next year at some point. So time will tell, but it's not looking good, Stuart. But I just thought we do bring in another 2 or 3, maybe even 4 before the window closes. But they have to be in the positions we need. We just can't bring in everybody, and we have to bring in somebody with a bit more experience than we've been buying so far.
On your point on Eagleman quickly, I would completely agree on the idea that I think he would be perfect in a Martin, not even a Martin team, but the players that we brought in. Because I'm not even going to attribute to Martin's style. I think it's the players that he's brought in for this system. You brought in obviously Ant-Man, who is, I think his nickname over in Holland was like the assist king. And like last season when we had Eagleman in the team, we put him up at centre forward position, and I'm sure he scored like 10 goals in 8 games, hat trick at Hibs. And there was like a point where I'm sure even Danilo was in behind him. Same point where Stu was saying Danilo playing the two. That was our best footballer last season. And if you add Gasserman and Ant-Man, who have now got two genuine quality players in the wing, we have players there, and you throw in Asgard at the end if he comes in. From what I've heard of him, like you're saying, maybe has sugary bones, but we'll see how he goes on for that. But we've got the players there, and for a system that's been lauded as a very attacking system from Martin, it's the most rigid, fluid system I've ever seen in my life. It's like I said, it's the necessity to pass it round the back to get that extra man. I don't know who. I think maybe one of the guys said in the chat that the saving grace is if they did end up sacking Martin and they sacked him quite soon, was that there would be players there that I think another manager who would build on that would actually do really well with those players because he has. I don't think we've recruited badly. There is some really good talents in there, and I go back to the point obviously talking about. I'd like to see us bring in more players from like foreign leagues. They could fail just as badly. Like I understand that. Like I know that could be like a stick to beat somewhere. I'm not going to kind of get at them too much. I'd rather we'd stayed so heavily away from the English leagues, but it could have just been as bad for us if we'd signed all from foreign leagues like we've done before. So I do understand that point, but that's me trying to be positive. That's me trying to be positive. And I do think we have players there that could really benefit from I'm not even going to say a manager that can do it, because I'd like to see Martin own up at some point and be like, right, okay, maybe I do need to tweak this a wee bit, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe one day we'll actually see it.
My worry is post Martin. I mean, we're already in that place. I think the fans being so fed up, and whoever comes in has to hit the ground running. What manager takes the job? If Martin is gone this soon,
Kevin Muscat. Give me Kevin Muscat. I've wanted Kevin Muscat for ages, mate. Give me
I don't think
him.
he takes the job anymore. I genuinely think he's
He
got
probably
the
doesn't.
job. So
I said before, Mark, when I said I would have took McInnes or Robinson just to get his
end
back
the
name up.
podcast.
Oh, we haven't fallen that far yet, Kerr. Come on.
No, just domestically, because I thought we were a shambles domestically, and both of them do really good jobs at setting their team up and are very hard to beat. And we've not been like that for a long time. And I know as a Rangers fan, you want a better manager, a bigger name, blah blah blah. But we're not at that level. We're not. But everybody always says, "But look at Celtic." We can't look at Celtic. We have to look at Hearts and Hibs, and because we're struggling to beat them now. I mean, beating Celtic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just think we had to bring in somebody before we went up a level. That was just my
Mate,
opinion.
I will say a Derek McInnes team, 6 points out of 6. Makes you think, doesn't it? Makes you think.
See, the only thing I'd say with the McInnes, Robinson, and I actually said it about Gerrard as well. If we didn't have the takeover, I'd want one of those. Like one of those three, I think could come in on a budget and make it work. But I think with the takeover, we've been backed. I'm not saying Martin's the right guy. He might be. I'm still going to back him. I'm still going to hope it's going to turn around because it's very, very early days and it's still a long way to go. I'm going to give him the time. I'm still not going to give Kieran Dowell the time, but I'm going to give Martin the time. I just don't think they're the types of manager that could come in and for me, and I'm not saying he's at anywhere near their level, but I just if we're going to go domestic like that, we would have been fine just keeping Barry Ferguson if that was the case. Because we were just going to sign Scottish anyway and keep it domestic, right? I know McInnes and Robertson have got more CV, but I don't think they'd have done a massive difference in terms of job. And that's not me advocating for Barry Ferguson because I didn't want him at all, and he's my hero. So yeah, I'm not fussed about that. We're going to finish it off anyway.
Sorry, can I just add a point?
Go on.
Just one final point, one final statement is that although I am happy with our signings, I am more worried about Kevin Thelwell getting it right in terms of the manager, etc., than I am the manager that we have in place. So I think that we've had a good kind of signing or good window in terms of bringing the signs in. As Lee said, you'd expect maybe another manager to come in if that was to happen, and we could continue going forward without having to hit another rebuild. But I'm worried about him picking the right personnel because that's how we've ended up with Russell Martin when everybody, it seemed, wanted Ancelotti Jr.
Well, I would agree with that in the sense. So, from what I heard, it was him and Stewart that campaigned for Martin, and the boy, the 49ers guy, is it Greta Steinson? Is that his name? So he
Yeah.
was the one that advocated for Ancelotti and was outvoted, obviously, 2-1 in that sense. And I'm pretty sure Ancelotti started quite well at Botafogo, hasn't he? A struggling
Yes.
Botafogo as well, not even like the powerhouse they've been known as in Brazilian football. Like, I think they maybe finished 10th last season. And he's
No,
came in
I think they finished first last season, but this season they were
I
right
was a
down there
big
when they
eye.
sat their manager, right, and that's when he's come in, and I think he's won 5, drawn 2, and lost 1, and
That's what it
albeit
was.
and he's probably not doing it with the players spent that we're spending. So it's but that's obviously a conversation for another time. I'm going to go around the room really quickly. One word answers from each of you.
Yeah.
Alex, do we beat Club Brugge?
Yes.
Lee, do we beat Club Brugge?
Yes.
Care, do we beat Club Brugge?
No,
Oh, there we go. Someone said no. Someone said no. There
No,
we
I
go. That's
think PSV were a much better team the first year we beat them. First year we played them in that team, and that gives me hope because again we just seem to have this weird voodoo in Europe. I'm starting to actually believe the Celtic fans that we've got some mad like curse on Europe where we can't do well in the league, but we can do all right in Europe. I'm starting to believe it because there's no other explanation for it.
I think if we give the same amount of chances away, Bruges will take more than the other two teams have we played against, and that's an issue for me.
Aye.
Yeah, absolutely. Right then, we will end it there. Thank you so much for listening. We'll let the boys get back to what they're doing because I've heard from a very reliable source that every time we put in a poor performance, Kerr has to buy another wristband. So he's going to have no arm left at the end of this if we don't hurry. I was looking at the other arm, mate, with all the wristbands on. But thanks very much for joining us on a night where Rangers lost 2-1 in Czechia to Victoria Plzen, but qualified 4-2 on AG to set up a lucrative tie, winner takes all of a potential 40 million prize against Club Brugge. So we will be back with the normal Scottish Football podcast next weekend. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll catch you all very, very soon.